Today we will try to answer the question whether Jiho is actually good at Axie Infinity Origin. About a week ago there was a gameplay reveal of Axie Infinity Origin and Jiho was taking a part in a best of 3 series versus Shades. He was playing the Topaz build. But after the game has dropped, I asked Jihoz whether he can send me some replays so we can analyze his Topaz build, and he's done just that. So shout out to him for sharing those replays, and now we can see whether he can actually play Origin. So jumping into the first game, Jiho is matched versus a triple aqua build, a build that is currently really strong due to the koi as well as the cards that you can search, but I see that his opponent doesn't have any telescope, so it's not going to be that easy. Manages to use all of the cards that he has available as well as the sponge on the front lane, so that's not going to be easy to break through, and we see that Jiho's plant is already down to 155 health. He decides to use Bumpy on it. Bumpy gives you 10 shield whenever you play a card. It's a power card. He also has the energy coin, so you can see that he's stacking shield through the use of cards. He also has a couple of secrets. I think this is from the pumpkin, so he will draw a card. You can see right here, Lumber Shield from... is that from Bumpy as well? Let's see, Bumpy, whenever... no, this has to be from something else. It's from Timber, actually. So he didn't play a pumpkin, he played a Timber. And whenever someone attacks into you, you will get those shields. 12 shield for 0 cost whenever someone attacks into you. And he's running a double Timber, actually. A very defensive team that allows you to banish a lot of cards so that your Topaz deals more damage. But also sort of make sure that your Axies survive a bit longer. Now, if he did lose this front lane Axie, it would have been hard to navigate through this match, but so far so good. If you lose your first Axie versus a triple aqua, you're pretty much in the dust. Like, you're not gonna do much in that game. But so far Jiho is hanging in there. He does lose a plant in turn 5, so he might draw a couple of plant cards. We can see that he still has 1 left, so he's not gonna get that many revenge cards. Tiny Dino coming through as well. Uses the Hungry Bird so that he can heal up a little bit. If you are initial, you will do that. Does he manage to get the kill? Does he play Tiny Dino? He doesn't decide to play Tiny Dino, actually decides to go for the Timber. Now the reason that he goes for the Timber is because he wants to get those shield cards. He wants to be able to banish as many cards as he can. You can see already that there are 5 cards that have been banished from Jiho. And his opponent is still trying to do as much damage as he can, putting those bleeds stacks on, but he doesn't really care about those bleeds stacks because his front lane most likely will die this turn anyway. You can see how many banished cards he has now. Again, about 4 banished cards that he can potentially use so that the Topaz deals a lot of damage. There's already 8 cards that have been banished, so this Topaz is already dealing 105 damage. Let's see whether he decides to use that, or is he just going to shield up. He could have played another Timber on this beast to make sure that it survives, because his opponent doesn't have a Shoal Star, so he wouldn't be able to finish that one off. But he does decide to go for damage, trying to just soften that Axie up as much as he can so that the back lane Reptile can do a 1v2. The beast does die, but it provides him with 2 Lumber Shields, so he can get up to 11 banished cards. And with the Fallen Swords, he's probably going to have a couple of those coming as well from the beast cards, but also from the plant cards as well. You can see plenty of revenge cards. Those revenge cards are actually very useful if you are running the Topaz build, because they all have banish. So you can see already 12 cards banish. He puts the hot bot in his opponent deck, so it's harder for him to draw any useful cards. And if he kills this Axie, then again it's gonna add fallen cards to the triple aqua play. He actually is very lucky when it comes to the draws 5 damage cards. Well, 4 damage and 1 sponge, so he can go for all of that damage on this Reptile. And it's looking rough. It's looking rough so far. 175 health left on that Reptile. We know that Topaz can do quite a lot of damage, but question is, can he draw it? And the answer is not this time. 16 banished cards already. We can see he's going for the Herbivore. He's going for the Tiny Dino, applying as much damage as he can. The bleed doesn't go through because the mid lane Axie of his opponent did have a cleanser, so that the bleed didn't go through. We can see that the opponent draws 3 burns, and I think that might just be a kill or very close to it. 45 damage, 5 health left on that Aqua because of the burns, and he also couldn't play any cards, so that hot bot is coming in clutch. He has another hot bot if he wants to play it. Goes for the Herbivore initial so that he can heal up a little bit. The Fragile now lessens the shield that he can apply, and also this bleed is hurting a lot. This bleed has dealt 45 damage this turn. Not something that you want to see in a 1v1 scenario, but his opponent is struggling as well. 2 burn cards, a sponge, as well as a fallen axe. He decides to use the fallen axe and the sponge as well, just surviving as much as you can. And we should see a Topaz coming through right now, and the Topaz should deal about 235 damage. So with the Incissor and with the Topaz, this reptile of Jihoz is actually going to win this game. What a comeback! 235 damage, 21 banished cards, making sure that the Topaz hits like a goddamn truck, and Jihoz wins the first game. Very well played. I mean, this team looks creative, it looks fun. The double timber, not something that you see every day, but the Topaz is working. What can I say? Let's jump into the second game. Now, I couldn't play the second game because of this error, but not to be worried, we will jump into the game that he has played on the reveal with Shade. Now, this game was broadcasted on the official Axie Infinity channel on Twitch, so if you want to check it out for yourself, there's going to be a link down in the description. This team that Jiho is running is a little bit different. He's running a triple timber, actually. So with the triple timber, what you get is a lot more banished cards, making sure that the Topaz in the end game is going to hit like a truck, even more than it did in the first game. That's if he can draw those Topaz cards. Now, his Axies actually have quite a lot of health, and the reason for that is because he's using runes and charms. Now, they had access to these runes and charms before the official game was out. This was previously on the reveal of the gameplay, so they had a lot more to play with. That's why the health is a bit more, meaning that the Topaz has more time to speed up, because there's not a risk that you're gonna lose your front lane Axie in the first round, right? Because it has about 500 health. There's nothing that deals 500 health in the game, even if you have the best runes and charms. So there's more time for this build to actually scale. He does have 1 timber, he's definitely going to play that, but with 210 shield, I don't expect his opponent to be attacking into that. He might just be willing to skip so that he doesn't give Jiho's the lumber shields that he's looking for. I think skipping is the better play, or playing shields yourself. Both are viable options. There's 3 secrets on every single Axie of Jiho's. Snail Shell does give your opponent goo, and I think attacking with the Thorny Caterpillar is a giant mistake from Shade, giving 3 lumber shields that have the banish. He should know that those are very, very helpful for the Topaz. If he goes for the Scarab as well, then he's just going to provide him with so many cards that it doesn't really make sense. Goes for the Snail Shell so that he can give Jiho's that goo. If he realizes that this is the goo, then it's actually helpful for him, because goo has the banish effect as well. You can see 3 lumbers already going up to that, 3 banish number. Energy coin has a banish as well. Then he can get the goo, which has a banish. Void unfortunately doesn't have a banish, it does have an ethereal, so that's not going to be too helpful. And let's see how many Topaz stacks can Jiho get in this round. You can see Little Owl being played, 1 goo being shuffled into his discard pile. That can come in handy later. He could have went for the energy coin, not really a fan of it, but the energy coin, if you don't use it early on, then it loses value towards the mid and the late game, because you actually draw only 5 cards. Some of them are going to be revenge cards, so you don't feel like wasting energy coin on a revenge card. That's why the energy coin, I think the earlier you play it, the better value it gets if you have the right cards to play it. But that's just my opinion. Now, Shade draws a bunch of bug cards. He's running the triple bug. A lot of 0 costs, but he does have the Bookworm, allowing him to look through his deck and search for any bug card that he wants. Ear Breathing is again a card that I think provides your opponent with 4 goo cards, and goo has a banish, so that's only helpful for Jiho's. If that doesn't absolutely ruin his card draw, if he draws like 3 or 4 goos, because you have to spend some energy using them. There are 1 energy cost. They do have a banish, but it's like you're scaling towards the late game. You still have to survive the early and the mid game. So far so good. We are in turn 4 or 5 currently. No Axies have been lost. They are playing this game a little bit slower than usual because that was on the original gameplay reveal, so they just want to show everything that they have to show before just speeding through the matches and playing to win, right? We do see Chubby. Could be good to use the Chubby, as it does have plenty of value when 3 Axies are alive. 150 damage, always can always go for that. As you can see, he has drawn a goo, he has drawn an energy coin, both are banished, so he can get up to those 6 banished cards. Does decide to go for herbivore. Not really sure that was the best play. I think Chubby was better. Yeah, exactly, he goes for Chubby now. That's 150 damage. 120 actually, because the backlane did have 30 shield from that leaf bug. Shade does have a double leaf bug with square teeth. Actually, that is an insane bug on the back lane for the 1v1 scenarios, because if you draw leaf bugs, you get that passive shield, and then Might Bite or the square teeth deal extra damage as a 0-cost cards if it's initial, depending on the shield that you have. So if you draw 2 leaf bugs and then you use the square teeth, then you will be doing extra damage. We see the Thorny Caterpillar being hovered over to finish off the front lane Axie of Jihoz. Only 5 banished cards so far in 7 turns. Not the best, but not the worst. Does decide to go for some shield as well as the Thorny to finally get rid of this front lane Aqua. Actually, didn't lose anything because I think he had a snake jar. I think he had a secret snake jar in the... so he actually didn't kill it with a Thorny Caterpillar. Let's see. You can target any ally, and the next HP loss will prevent it from dying up to 90 health. Wow. Wow. So Snake Jar might actually be a good defensive card, especially that it's a secret, so they might think you're gonna finish them off, but that's not what happens. We see the Potato Leaf. Unfortunately, that's on the middle Axie. If it was on the front lane, could have made sure that it survives for a little bit longer. Lamb no longer dealing extra damage because the Axie has to be on higher health, but he can go for the Sleepless. He can go for a redraw using that one card. Gets confused, not the best of cards, but I think he can go for a kill here or very close to it. Potato Leaf and Sleepless. 6 banished cards so far, so not the best, not the worst. 45 health left on that bug on the front lane of Shade, and let's see how many banish stacks can Jiho get. So far it has been a long game. Shade hasn't really used that many goo cards, so he hasn't used the snail shell. I mean, he can get to use it now. I think it's a redraw, but he hasn't used the ear breathing, which is the one that provides Jiho with 4 goos that will stack up that banish pile. So far only 7, so Topaz is hitting for 95, but there's still plenty of game to be played. You can see Square Teeth dealing 165 damage. Not sure why it was so much. I think they changed it to initial on the release. Maybe it wasn't initial back when they played. Pokey, not a big fan of Pokey actually, because it deals damage to a random enemy, just increasing your RNG for no reason, right? He draws a Confused, he draws a Daze, he draws a Fallen Hidden Sword. Not the best card draw, right? 3 pretty much useless cards. We see the Topaz being hovered over, 95 damage. That is not going to be enough. Lacking 10 damage, but I think he still has to play it. Exactly, 10 damage left on that bug. And if that was a damage sword, he would have been able to finish that bug off, but unfortunately it isn't. Shade is also running a double Graveland. Graveland in this game works a little bit different, right? It works the same way as Hatsune. So if someone attacks into you, they will get feared, and then you can use the Sandal to deal extra damage to feared targets. So maybe running something like the Graveland double Sandal is actually a good play. You can also run Cute Bunny, Bookworm. I mean, I think triple bug is actually viable if you run the Gravelands for the shield cards, and then you get some good runes. You can see 255 shield on that front lane bug. There's no way that Jiho can break through that. He would have to have a double Topaz, and even then it's cutting it close. So let's see what he does. He does play the Timber, hoping to get as many banished cards as he can. So far only 9, and Shade did attack into Jiho's. Look at that card draw, 3 0-cost banished cards, 2 fallen swords and a goo, so he can finish off that bug but also discard, I mean banish so many cards. That is just ridiculous. 11 banished cards so far, and let's look at how many he will have by the end of the turn. 12. 13, 14, 15, 16, potentially 17 banished cards already. This is stacking up like crazy. He does go for the herbivore just to deal a little bit of extra damage, and the little owl as well. Maybe he could have went for the fallen sword just to add that extra. Actually, he does. He still has energy to do that. So 65 health left on that bug and 16 banished cards already. That Topaz is going to hurt. And in round 16, Jiho will finally go for the kill on that mid lane bug. Using the incisor, using the chubby, that bug will finally fall down. And let's see whether the backlane bug is good enough to do a 1v2 with those 2 leaf bugs as well as a might bite. So far, not good. Throwing way too many fallen cards. Only 30 shield on that Axie. Not enough to deal any significant damage. I mean, he can go for the scarab, he can go for this fallen sword as well as the fallen axe. No, he only has 1 energy left, so there's no way he's going to be able to play that, so he just shields up and tries to do a little bit of damage. And in the final round of this game, we get to see how much this Topaz will do, which is 20 banished cards plus 25 attack, 225 damage coming in from the Topaz. So Jiho has built a creative theme around banished cards, making maximal use of those revenge cards that you draw after your Axie has fallen down. And in the 1v1 scenarios, that Topaz is killing your Axies no matter what, as long as you can draw it. Maybe getting a scar on the backlane and keeping it for the 1v1 scenario so that you can make sure that you get that Topaz is actually a useful idea. But I think these 2 games have shown exactly what Jiho is capable of, and that is smacking your Axie with a Topaz and making sure that he takes the win. So let me guys know in the comment section down below, what do you think about this team from Jiho and what he has shown here. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my YouTube channel for daily playthrough and content, and I will see you in the next one.